Hello, sir. I want first to thank you for giving us this opportunity to give presentations about the British culture and societies module. So I just want to tell you that I have chosen as a topic the British woman rights history. And I also want to mention that I can't appear on the video because of my work. I don't have the right to appear in public speaking media or a network. So I hope you will understand and let's get started. So our presentation today will be about British women rights history done by Mufida Babish. So my presentation will be about British women's rights history. So let's get started. So British women's rights history. First, let's see the outline. So British women through history will be the first thing we're going to see. It is divided into three chapters. The first chapter is British women in prehistory, then the early history, and after that, the women's struggle in the previous centuries. So we're going to see also what does mean suffragette. Then the right to vote and feminism. We're going to see the four waves of feminism. And then the change of the English woman role in the society. And at last, how British women's rights have changed till now. So, first, we're going to see the woman, English woman in prehistory. So, British woman in prehistory. In prehistory era, English women worked a variety of jobs, including gathering, hunting, and midwifing. They contributed greatly to the economic well-being of their communities. They were not confined to their homes, so they didn't have to pretend to be male in order to work, as became a necessity in later eras. Women have been soldiers and fighters, but female warriors are the exception rather than the rule. During the Paleolithic era, men and women served different functions in tribes, but neither was considered superior to the other. Men were generally responsible for hunting, whereas women were responsible for gathering, as well as caring for children and preserving tribal harmony. All in all, during the prehistory era, men and women were largely equal in status. So we can see in here that everything was okay in the prehistory era. Then we move to the next era, which is the early history. During the Neolithic era, the innovation in agriculture had made revolution. As a result, not all people needed to be farmers. Instead, they started to specialize in different jobs. This period led to the increase in food supply, the trade, and the world population. Furthermore, work done outside the home, such as herding, was typically performed by men and began to be valued more highly than work done inside the home, which was typically performed by women. All that had led to the appearance of the gender inequality. So here, troubles started. So let's move and see what's happened later. Here is some illustrations that show how was women, British women in the earlier centuries. In the first picture, we can see some women doing the housework and sitting with children, trying to do the washing up and other things. And here we can see some working women in the factories, women dressed in the Victorian era. So there are those illustrations. So how was women in the British earlier centuries? As we can see, some troubles started while the appearance of gender equality. So, in the ancient and classical medieval world, women's rights differ somewhat from culture to culture. In Great Britain, women were essentially regarded as enslaved adults or children under the authority of their husband or fathers. Women were largely confined to their homes and lacked the right to come and go as they pleased. They also had been deprived of the right to choose or refuse marriage partners, or even end the marriage. A number of these concerns and others continued to be a problem for women in the centuries that followed. They included the lack of custodial rights over children, especially after divorce, the inability of women to own property, run business, and control their own wages, income, and wealth. Women also faced employment discrimination barriers to education, a lack of vote rights, and the inability to represent themselves in lawsuits and court actions. So, in here, what's happened? Of course, industrialization and the world wars were the major agents of women emancipation in the UK. In industrial British counties, women were compelled to join the industrial labor force for economic necessity. As the demand for labor increased due to the development of new areas of employment, women were more and more able to find jobs. They were able to join the lower professions such as primary school, teaching, and nursing. As the process of industrialization matured and up in the two world wars, when men were fighting on the front, women had to take occupations that were dominated by men. As a result, the economic opportunities for women increased and their status has rights, so they became less dependent on marriage. As a consequence, many social changes occurred, such as a decline in birth rates and a rise in divorce rates. This has led to the eventual introduction of the political equality of British women to reflect the social and economic independence. How women try to get that right? This is the question. So, you see that picture? It is about a movie released in 2015, and it is called Suffragettes. So, I was going to ask the students about suffragettes. We've already seen it in your course when we were talking about women in Britain, and I even write this word on the board. This is what encouraged me to do this presentation about women. So because I was really astonished when I looked in the history of women's rights, especially in Britain, because it was the leader of this women's rights and equality rights. So I invite you to see the trailer of the movie in order to have an idea about it.
Women should not exercise judgment in political affairs.
If we allow women to vote, it will mean a loss of social structure.
Vote for women! Vote for women! All right.
You work at the laundry?
Part-time from when I was 7, full-time from when I was 12.
We meet Mondays and Thursdays if you're interested.
You a suffragette, Mrs. Ellen? I consider myself more of a soldier. As Mrs. Pankhurst says, it's deeds, not words, that will get us the vote.
We've identified weaknesses in their ranks. We're hoping one of them will break.
You're saying she's to speak.
This is a deliberate escalation. This has to stop.
For 50 years, we have labored peacefully to secure the vote for women. We've been ridiculed, battered, and ignored.
Punish those responsible, whatever way you can.
Mama!
my life, I've done what men told me. Well, I can't have that anymore. Took my love, took it down.
I incite the women in Britain to rebellion.
Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? We break windows. We burn things. Because war's the only language men listen to. Well, I've been afraid of changing.
There's nothing left but to stop me.
We're in every home. We're half the human race. You can't stop us all. Time makes you bolder eventually.
You might lose your life before this is over.
I'm getting older too. We will win. I take my love, take it down.
Never surrender. Never give up the fight.
In the snow-covered hill.
So, as we can see in the trailer, many women had to fight in order to get their first right, which is to have a voice, to vote. They just wanted to vote. So, what does mean a suffragette? A suffragette was a member of an activist women's organization in the early 20th century who, under the banner "Vote for Women," fought for the right to vote in public election in the United Kingdom. So, about the movie Suffragette, the scene or the plot is happening in London 1912. A working wife and a mother whose life has forever changed when she was secretly recruited to join the UK's growing suffragette movement. This movie is inspired by true events that track the story of foot soldiers of early feminist movements, and it explores the passion and heartbreak of those who risked all they had for women's right to vote, their jobs, their homes, their children, and even their lives. The movie starts with a man's speech in the parliament that states, "Women do not have the calmness of temperament or the balance of mind to exercise judgment in political affairs. If we allow women to vote, it will mean the loss of social structure. Women are well represented by their fathers, brothers, husbands. Once the vote given, it would be impossible to stop at this. Women would then demand the right to becoming MPs, cabinet ministers, judges, etc." The movie ends by stating that certain women over 30 in the UK were given the right to vote in 1918, rights over their own children in 1925, and at the same voting rights as men in 1928. So, here are some illustrations of the suffragettes at that time, and especially that picture has really made me cry because it is the scene that has changed everything. One of the suffragettes had to give her life in front of the King of England at that time in the hippodrome of while the horse of the king was playing. So the horse of the king has hit this suffragette, and she wanted to draw the attention of the king and the cameras that were there in order to show their cause to the public. So now, what's next? What's happened next? So, since then, social movements and political campaigns started in order to reach British women's rights. As we can see in the pictures, women's rights, belief, men's society, gender equality, treated women, patriarchy in here. Also, they wanted equality. Some feminists started to appear. We can do it. So here, feminism and women emancipation. British women emancipation has been achieved through a series of social movements and political campaigns that have expanded since their beginning in the 80s and had varied among the United Kingdom communities. The movement's priorities were for radical and liberal reforms of women issues such as women's reproductive rights, domestic violence, maternity leave, equal pay, sexual harassment, sexual violence. One of these movements is feminism, which is a range of social political movements and ideologies that aim to define and establish the political economy, personal and social equality between the genders. Feminism has gone through a series of 4 high movement term waves. So, what are those waves? So, the first wave of feminism was oriented around the station of middle and upper class English women who had won the right to vote the whole United Kingdom. Around that time, women became more active in communist, socialist, and social democratic parties. They were first allowed to go to university and having both a career and a family. After the end of the Second World War, women gained equal political rights in England. Women's emancipation has become an important aim, and most women were allowed to take full-time job, divorce their husbands, and go to university. Now let's talk about the second wave of feminism, which attempted to face social and cultural inequalities in order to achieve women's emancipation in the United Kingdom. Different groups had different ideas about how this should be done. English liberal feminists wanted better equality laws and reforms of institutions such as school, churches, and the media. English radical feminists argued that the root of the woman's inequality is patriarchy. Men oppress women. They also focused on violence against women and started to talk about rape and violence in the family. English socialist feminists argued that it is a combination of patriarchy and capitalism that causes women's oppression. The second wave of feminism brought in women different social class, women of color, and women from other developing nations that were seeking solidarity. Women's studies became a discipline at university, and books began to be published about women's achievements in literature, music, and science. Finally, the second movement played an important role in the drafting of international documents about women's rights, such as Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. So, what about the third wave of feminism? It was characterized by an increased awareness of overlapping categories such as race, class, gender, sexual orientation, including the status of women either in England or in other parts of the world, global feminism. This was a moment when a number of feminist organizations were established. The third wave activists used media and pop culture to promote ideas and to run activities. The main issue that the third feminist wave is concerned about sexual harassment, domestic violence, the pay gap between men and women, eating disorder, and both reproductive rights, reproductive rights, honor crimes, and female genital mutilation. So, what about the fourth wave of feminism, which is a movement that began around 2012 and is characterized by a focus on the empowerment of English women through the use of internet. The internet gave women opportunities for their voice to be heard, not only in England but also around the world, in a matter of seconds. It became a universal platform, offering women the right to speak freely. The fourth wave allowed English women to speak up and share their experiences online about sexual abuse, harassment, violence, misogyny, gender violence against women, and sexism at the workplace. As women all over the world began sharing their personal stories, and they realize the magnitude of the problem and how it was happening everywhere. The fourth wave of feminism argued for equal pay, work opportunities, and tasks to overcome gender norms. So, where are we now? This is the question that we ask. Where are we now? So English women's role have changed in the society, of course, after those fights. English women now have a voice. Families are no more male dominated, and like men, women also make major life decisions. They stand against domestic violence. Even in the workplace, they fight against sexual abuse. Child marriage is being stopped in England in many communities. Men now play a role in child raising, and both men and women share their responsibilities at home and outside. Women now stand against any discrimination and torture. They are now getting power even in rural areas and are the head of the states in many countries. Education has made women independent, and they are no longer dependent on men to lead their lives. Business law, have changed to allow more women in the workplace and giving them the comfortable environments on work in. Women can now stand tall like men and get equal opportunities in everything.
In one voice, the world declared, human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights.
Women are not even accepted as human beings. They are treated with injustice and inequality. Women are denied. They are neglected, even in the developed countries.
I am from Britain, and I think it is right that I am paid the same as my male counterparts. I think it is right that I should be able to make decisions about my own body.
I will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man. I will not. And the government will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man. Now looking at his watch because apparently a woman's spoken too long.
So I think right now we have the chance to be heard, and that's why we're doing it. We're all doing it because we're asking to try and elicit change.
How do we use this moment to elevate what is happening instead of continually victimize ourselves?
It's our responsibility to make this world a better place. Yes, we play sports. Yes, we play soccer. Yes, we're female athletes, but we're so much more than that.
The women's movement of this world has mellowed. Our issues and our conversation has become issues for men. I get angry when I think about it. No woman should sit down and allow a man to speak about her reproductive rights. Until you've gone through that process. I've come from Africa to tell you you don't qualify.
So as you can see, it's an overwhelming speech about gender equality that had made me cry. I really cried when I seen. I didn't know that women had to endure all this in order to give me a chance to be at university or to drive a car or just to have a voice or to defend myself. I didn't know it. So thank you for giving me this opportunity in order to discover many things that's really they are blessing and I didn't know about them. So at last, let's see how British women rights have changed till now. So British society has come a long way nowadays. Reports highlighted that 83% of British public support equality of opportunity for women, which demonstrates how far they have come since the early 20th century when women took their step to challenge the male status. It is evident that there is still need for change, but British society is heading in the right direction toward the realization of women's empowerment and gender equality, protecting the rights and improving the lives of women and girls either in the United Kingdom or around the world. And thank you for your attention. I just wanna really thank you again, and excuse me for the video. I couldn't do it as I wanted. I hope I will have an opportunity in the next semester to do a presentation as it should be in the class. And thank you again. Goodbye.